Hello everyone, welcome to Jamaica 411. If you are surfing the net looking for that one channel which goes deep into issues where others scratch the surface, well, you have come to the right place. Of course, we may not deal with all the issues, but we select those issues that we believe is important to you and add to your knowledge base. I want to thank you all for subscribing and hitting the notification bell. But most of all, I want to thank you all for recommending this channel to others at home and abroad. We also want you to know that we welcome your views. So please feel free to leave your comments in the comment section, and please go right ahead and give this video a thumbs up from now on, because when we start to get down to business, you don't want me to be interrupting you and asking you to give the video a thumbs up. So go ahead, please give the video a thumbs up. And I want you to know I appreciate your support for this channel. To my subscribers, welcome back. I know you're going to give the video a thumbs up. You know the ropes. So go ahead, please give the video a thumbs up. And of course, continue leaving your comments. I do appreciate it. All right, now that everyone is here, let's get down to business. What will I be talking about today? Well, the risers who ensconced themselves in the leadership of the PNP, hoping one day to find themselves in Jamaica House, they have stirred up an ant's nest. Yes, it was an ant's nest of their own making. They calculated and they miscalculated, it seems to me, that they were going to do their own thing with regards to the seats that are available where there are no persons. So what do? They've developed this strategy of allowing people to work the seat. Party members they may be, but party members, they have no intention whatsoever to allow them to represent the PNP in those seats. But they allow them to work the seat nonetheless, spend their money building the local organization and bringing the base home. And then what they then do is to remove those persons from the seats, generally with the claim that polls stated that they can't win. Of course, every single one of the persons who were so removed on the basis of these polls were never afforded an opportunity to see those polls. So they were simply told by the General Secretary, Dayton Campbell, that the poll said, and that's that. The question is, though, is there an upside to that strategy? They would hope yes. First of all, the organization will be in place. They did not have to spend any money to build that organization. And with the claim that Don Anderson ran a poll and the poll said they cannot win, they were hoping that the comrades would say, oh my, well, since I can't win, let me step aside and allow somebody else to take my place. Then they were hoping, these risers, Mark Golding, Peter Bunting, and Dayton Campbell with Angela Brown Burke, yes, those are the top four who will be making these decisions. Yes, so they were hoping that with the seat now organized with somebody else's money, that they would now be able to put the person that they want in that seat in the first place. Generally speaking, that person will be someone who is loyal to them, that in the event that things get tight when the election is over and they lose the election, I don't think that they can win the election. No. They will then have a base of risers loyal to them who will then ensure that Mark Golding is returned as the leader of opposition, or they may make the switch at that point, assuming that, let us say that Bunting should win his seat for argument's sake, then they'll make the switch at that point, and it is Bunting who would have been taken over. And why we believe so is because there is sufficient evidence which shows us, all of us, that the person who is responsible for candidate selection and interviews and recommendation is indeed Peter Bunting. And we learned that from what Steve McGregor said. He said it was Bunting who did the interview with him when he was to enter the People's National Party as a member. And remember that January 4, 2025 meeting with Lawrence Rowe, Bunting was also in that meeting as well. And that was a meeting to remove Lawrence Rowe as the caretaker for Central Kingston. So that is the situation. Now, of course, that is the upside. The downside of it, of course, this strategy of Peter Bunting, Mark Golding, and Dayton Campbell in particular, the downside of it is that there is no candidate that is on the ground, even the ones that they don't want and never intended to have them in that seat in the first place because they have other persons earmarked, or they want a riser that they can trust in that position. They don't want an iffy riser. They want a riser that is solid in these seats, especially those that the PNP lost due to their sabotage, and they know the PNP can get them back. Yes. So the downside of it, of course, is that all the candidates who were in these seats that they are seeking to replace, they all think they can win. Yes. And because they all think they can win, and they have been canvassing with their team, and they're believing that they can win, when Dayton Campbell is ready, and he's not going to be ready before he knows that the organization on the ground is in place. That's when he'll be ready. And for those persons who have been replaced, I want you to think about it if you're listening to this video. At the time when you were working this seat, did Dayton Campbell ever call you to find out what is happening, to get progress report, to make report to him about the state of the constituency, which then gave you the impression that you were going to get the seat? Of course, he never tell you, probably didn't tell you you're going to get the seat unless you ask, in which event he has to tell you what he needs to tell you to make you continue working the seat. Was that what happened? Because if that was what happened, then that is proof of what it is that I'm saying to you. That it was their intention for you to use your money, your resources, and build the constituency and bring it to a certain level where you can win. And it's when you're at that level now, they pull you by telling you that the poll says you can't win. And my friends, that is where the trouble starts. The trouble really starts there because those candidates who are to be removed, who believe they can win and have good reason to think they can win, they don't accept what Dayton Campbell is saying, that it is a poll which says them can win. They don't accept it. And because they don't accept it, and their followers don't accept it, because they believe that they're on the ground and they know better, that is where the trouble starts. Yes. And the risers are quite determined to put who they want in those seats because they know what it is they want them to do when the time comes. Mark Golding and Peter Bunting are not preparing the PNP to win the general elections. They are preparing the PNP for losing the election and what will come after, how they can preserve their positions. And so they are not selecting candidates on the basis that they are strong and can win. No, the only criteria for selecting candidates, particularly for the winnable seats, is that they must be loyal risers. And they want the risers in those seats so that they will outnumber the PNP. We do not consider them PNP. We consider them as a parasite within the People's National Party. The People's National Party, of course, being the host. So these parasites who are leeching off the PNP, their intention is to preserve their position. They are the minority, vast minority, less than 12% in the party. And it's essential for them to maintain that power. You see, what you may or may not know, depending on whether you're inside the party or outside, or if you're a member of the resistance, you certainly know, that there is a power struggle that is going on within the PNP. Never mind what you see on the platform. That is a show in order to give the impression that there is unity. But don't believe that Natalie Nita, Dennis Gordon, Denise Daly, Philip Paulwell, Fitz Jackson, Damian Crawford, or any of the others that we have identified as PNP, real PNP people. Don't think for 1 second that they are in anything with Bunting and Golding, Dayton Campbell, after what they did to the party to cause the party to lose the election and the sabotage campaign carried out on election day to ensure that the party lose the election. Don't think for 1 second them in and not with them, but they have to win their seats and they have to win some other seats, and in order to do so, they recognize that they need to have at the very least an appearance of unity. And they are prepared to make that sacrifice, to walk with traitors hand in hand, pronounce them as the next member of parliament for this seat or that seat, or the next prime minister of Jamaica. And they make that sacrifice to their reputation for the sake of the party that they love. So these treacherous risers, Bunting Golding, Dayton Campbell, particularly the duo, the capitalist duo of Bunting and Golding, they are taking advantage of this love that these PNP people have for the party and want to see preserved. They are taking advantage of that, while at the same time, they are using the candidates to fund the building of the party's machinery in these constituencies. That's what they're doing. They have no intention whatsoever of selecting them. What they want is a seat that can win to put them risers in. And when you see them shifting out people out of those seats, it is not because the polls are showing that they cannot win. It is because they are aware that they can win. And therefore they are making room for more risers. Yes, they are going to need them when they lose the election, because it is doubtful that if the majority of those who sit in the parliament are the PNP candidates who won the seat, it is doubtful that they will be putting Mark Golding as the opposition leader. Or if Bunting is fortunate enough to win his seat, I don't think they will be putting him as the opposition leader either. And therefore it is essential that they get those risers in those positions. Their first intention, of course, is to try and win those seats with the new rise candidates. And it is their fervent hope that the discarded candidates, the ones that they were using, would just be quiet and accept that they can't win, as they were told, and for the party's sake, step aside so that they can continue with their mission. For those who are not so willing, a little inducement may be offered. A lot of money, high positions, even high-end vehicles. Yes. But unfortunately, there are some candidates who are not into that. And even if they are, the supporters are not into that after all the efforts that they made. No. But for Peter Bunting, Mark Golding, and Dayton Campbell, even if the disturbance and the disruption will cause the PNP to eventually lose the seat, for them, it is better that they lose the seat than have the PNP forming the majority in the parliament. You following me? Yes. So the downside to what it is that they're doing is that the instability that will flow from what they're doing will eventually cause them to lose those seats. Now, the next question you may want to ask is, based upon my outline, my scenario, how does Lawrence Rowe fit into that? Especially in circumstances where he was a riser of no mean order. He was a riser of no mean order, that is true. So how did he fit in? He may not always agree with his superiors, and therefore he is an iffy riser, and that they don't need. They need absolute and total loyalty. If they tell you to jump, you ask how high. And it would appear from things that I'm hearing that Lawrence Rowe did not always toe the riser's line. He has gone against candidates that they put up, and he supported the other side. And therefore, he was indeed an iffy riser. They used him, and when he had outlived his usefulness, the task that he was set up to do, that organization called the engineer, that was no longer required. It was now redundant, and therefore they made him redundant. It is, after all, business. So headstrong, so focused they are on the prize, Peter Bunting and Mark Golding, that they neglected to pay attention to the human side of this sordid affair that they are involved in. Yes, they forgot the human side of it. They did promise Lawrence Rowe that seat in exchange for doing whatever it is they asked him to do. And faithfully, he did what they asked him to do, fulfilling his end of the bargain. Maybe, like Moses, he made a little mistake by supporting candidates against his boss's own candidates for whatever reasons. And just like Moses, the chance for him to reach the promised land was taken away from him. He chose to support a candidate that they did not support. Yes, you recall him saying, Mark Golding saying something to the effect of him supporting the likes of Raymond Price against Imani Duncan, whom they supported. Do you recall that? Yes, I seem to recall that. So, now you see what the source of the problem was. Right? They did not consider that Lawrence Rowe, that man, is not one of those that they should be separating from. They should keep him under them arm, close by them side, and never let him go because of who he is and what information he has. Evidently, as Karen Cross would tell you, it looked like they never know who he was. And obviously, they didn't know what he has. So they separated from him, and with a little inducement that they anticipated he would have taken, and he didn't. But the plan was too far advanced. They had to push along. And now they have a problem on their hands.
We're going to have more on that, but let me begin at home with the politics at home. And that issue of allegations being made that the opposition People's National Party have somehow been benefiting using public money from the Kingston and St. Andrew Municipal Corporation for political campaigning in the run-up to last year's by-elections. And those allegations have been fueled by the former PNP PNP constituency caretaker for Central Kingston, Lawrence Rowe, who was booted by the party last month. And he has been making the allegation backed by voice notes, WhatsApp conversations, and now I hear videotapes of people distributing cash in brown paper bags and envelopes. Lord have mercy. I gather that this is just the beginning of what is to come. Videotapes? Huh? What can go so? What can go so? Last evening, the PNP General Secretary, Dr. Dayton Campbell, sought to distance himself from the raging scandal, controversy, whatever you want to call it. Dr. Campbell went on the platform last evening and based on his pronouncement, he has nothing to do with any such allegation. That's what he said last night at the party's presentation of Damian Crawford as its prospective parliamentary candidate for Northwest St. Catherine. Dr. Campbell, as he's now wont to do, was ranting on the top of his voice. Yes, ranting at the top of his voice in rejecting any culpability in what is being talked about all over the country. First of all, he went after Government Senator Abka Fitzenley, who on Friday it was, called for him to resign as a commissioner of the Electoral Commission of Jamaica, the ECJ. Fitzenley made the call last Thursday, not Friday. Yes? After all reporting included a voice note of Dr. Campbell explaining to then PNP caretaker Lawrence Rowe that the Kingston and St. Andrew Municipal Corporation had distributed money strategically to PNP caretakers in anticipation of 2 by-elections. That conversation, purportedly between Rowe and Campbell, is alleged to have happened on December 2 last year. Rowe, in that conversation, asked Dr. Campbell to explain why he, Rowe, only received $300,000 from the corporation, while other PNP political representatives received larger sums. This is what Dr. Campbell said in response.
I can tell you why that happened. That's because they put more money in the 2 divisions that we're going to have by-elections in. So we're going to have a by-election in Chancery, and we're going to have a by-election in Denham Town. So they put some more money in the 2 divisions that are going to have the by-election.
That's Dr. Campbell. Yes? Pointing out that, listener, that was strategically done. Because they were about to face a by-election So in pursuant of that, they put more money in the by-election campaign or coffers to assist the party. Yeah. Well, the government senator, Abka Fitzenley, told the parliament last Friday that Campbell's response is evidence of the PNP secretariat endorsing criminality and organized crime. Dr. Campbell hit back at Crawford's presentation on Sunday evening, styling Fitzenley as a little youth.
The other day a man said to me, if me no hear Apka call for me resign from ECJ work. Me tell him say me a Apka no size so Apka can't call out my name because Bounty Killer no clash with Tanto Blocks.
Me not take intimidation from me Johnny boy me no fear man and me give me to live up on this station.
Now look at you two don't know nothing about this can come run up and get me if you run behind them and follow up them.
Dr. Campbell also argued or addressed the more substantive point that he cannot be held accountable for any misuse of funds by the KSAMC.
But me used to overcoming challenges from your boy. First, people attacked my reputation in the most vicious way about 3 years ago. Then after that, shots fire over one station and them tell lie, say me make it happen. Now them a come tell lie about me misallocate money. I don't work a parish council. I don't have no standing for instruct no parish council, so I can misappropriate anything. And any boy or girl will say so, me and them are going quarters, starting with Mr. Vegas.
Well, that was the PNP General Secretary last evening. Well, let us see. Let us wait until the other shoe drops. Yeah? Because what you heard there from Dr. Campbell, that don't mix me up. I'm not involved with this. Yes? Don't tell a lie upon me. That's what he's maintaining. In other words, this is a KSAMC matter. I'm not in any way involved in this, according to Dayton Campbell. Yeah? Despite the fact that you heard a voice note there with him talking to Rowe. What else does Rowe have? What else does he have? Whether audio or video or text. What else? Well, Dr. Campbell is making it clear he's not involved. So let's wait until the next act. Okay? Time for the break.
So it would appear that Lawrence Rowe understood them more than they understood him. Lawrence Rowe's role in the Rise United operation was as an engineer, one of 4 of them. And therefore, as the name would suggest, the engineers would have been the engine of that Rise operation. And therefore, he would know a lot about what was done to place them in the position that they are now in, the takeover of the leadership of the People's National Party. And as the name would suggest, it was the engineers, his group, that would have been manipulating events behind the scene. They would have been gathering the information, they would have been suppressing information, and they would have been the ones to make things happen. And so the information that he has at his disposal may be enormous. We just don't know at what point he began preserving this information. For sure, we have been hearing that Steve McGregor when he retired from the police force, would have been joining the People's National Party, and he was going to be given that Central Kingston constituency. That's what we were told 1 year before Steve McGregor retired from the police force. So if we heard it in the resistance, it's quite possible that Lawrence Rowe would have heard it as well. And he must have been planning for this day. Yes. So the first shot was fired, and Dayton Campbell was the one that seemed to have been the target. Not Audrey Smith Facey, not the mayor. Dayton Campbell is the one who is being targeted here. Why, therefore, is he going after Dayton as the first order of business? Is it because he sees him as a centerpiece of the rise operation, and therefore if he were to bring him down, he would bring down the whole shebang? Somehow I don't think so. I think it's far more likely that he sees Dayton Campbell as the one who was responsible for his removal. Yes. So he's going to target him and ensure that him na have no seat either, it seems to me. And so this is where he begins. But Dayton Campbell is one of them man that you might say is hard for dead. Him hard for dead man. And therefore, him going to have to come good to take him down. And in the process of the beginning of the takedown of Dayton Campbell, he has effectively killed two birds with one stone. Not only has he started the process of exposing what he wants us to know of Dayton Campbell's activities, but whether that was his intention or not, what he has done is successfully cut off a source of funding for the upcoming general elections, if it was indeed the PNP's plan to use the 5 parish councils under their control: St. Catherine, Kingston, Manchester, Westmoreland, Hanover, and St. Mary. That was their intention. Then this would have successfully cut off that source of funding. And as we already heard from Dayton Campbell, the party is in a cash flow crisis. And so that will have implications for the general elections coming up, if this is true. But whatever the party may have decided to do, and whatever the mayors may have agreed to with respect to funneling money to finance the party's campaign, this would all be on the mayors. It would be they who would make that decision. They have the legal authority to handle these monies, and it's their responsibility how the money is spent. And any activity to spend monies outside of what the law says it should be spent on, discretion or no discretion, would be illegal. And so if any illegal activity is taking place, whatever they may decide inside the party, it would be on the shoulders of the mayors, who would then be using their discretionary fund for an improper purpose. So Dayton Campbell is quite correct. He is not a councillor. He is not the mayor. He is not employed to the parish council. He is the General Secretary of the People's National Party. That is true. And if my memory serves me right, not only is he the General Secretary of the People's National Party, but he's also the campaign manager for the upcoming general elections. Yes, that is what I recall. And as the manager of the campaigns, whether it be by-elections or general elections, he is the campaign manager. So any activities, anything that is done by the mayors of these parish councils controlled by the People's National Party to funnel funds to the campaign effort, it is doubtful that that could be done without the knowledge and consent of the campaign manager for the elections. if they were doing so outside of his knowledge and approval, they will be interfering with his proper functions. Yes, if indeed there is a decision taken and the mayors agree, as a member of the People's National Party that is cash strapped, to use their discretionary fund to assist the party's election campaigning, that had not only to be a decision of the mayors, but also a decision taken by the hierarchy of the party. That would involve Peter Bunting, Dayton Campbell, and Mark Golding. They had to approve such a scheme because if the knowledge were to come out, it would have had implications for the party. And they're the ones, especially Mark Golding as the leader, who is responsible for the running of the party. So they cannot escape the suspicion that all of this emanated from them. And why it is that we can make that assumption? Because notice that Dayton Campbell still remains in his position. He himself used his own mouth to tell an operative of the People's National Party, a candidate, that the money that the council was given to two divisions that were up for by-election was for the purpose of assisting its election efforts. That would be the election campaign. That was what he said. And until now, he has not denied or tried even to put a spin on what was said, because he knows that there are other things that are coming out, and they have already come out. We're just not ready to pop it yet because we're waiting for the follow-up evidence in support of what was revealed. And this, by the way, is not just about the KCMC. Evidently, other parish councils are involved in this scheme as well. So Dayton Campbell remains in his position, clearly, because he was doing nothing that he probably was not instructed to do by his superiors, Mark Golding and Peter Bunting. Now, as we listen to what was said by Dayton Campbell and read what was in that leak message from Lawrence Rowe, we are bound to come to certain conclusions. And the public, as well as the media, have since drawn their own conclusions as to the meaning of what is being revealed by Dayton Campbell's conversation. My understanding of what the angst the people are having is that they are under the impression that the Kingston and St. Andrew Municipal Corporation distributed parish council money. That's money that was collected in taxes or in fees and fines that were earmarked to be spent in certain ways according to the Parish Council Act and whatever regulations that they are operating under. And the people are under the impression that money was taken from that's supposed to do their business and was funneled to certain divisions to unauthorized persons, meaning persons not employed to the parish council, not under any contract of works to the parish council, unauthorized persons affiliated with the People's National Party. And that money was to be used as part of its campaign to win two divisions, the Chancery Hall division and Denham Town division in the upcoming by-elections. You will recall that for Chancery Hall, Dwayne Smith was elected as the Member of Parliament, so he's no longer a councillor. The seat is now vacant. And for Denham Town, unfortunately, the young man, Jermaine, died of a heart attack, they said, so the seat is vacant. There was no mention of the other seat, which is the Olympic Gardens seat, that councillor, JLP councillor, he died as well. But that was not mentioned. I just told you so as a matter of reminding you that the seat is also vacant. And so there's likely to be a by-election there as well. But that is the allegation as far as I understand it. The KCC distributing monies to unauthorized persons affiliated with the PNP to be used as part of its campaign to shore up those two divisions. And that allegation was, how should I put it? Started when persons heard remarks coming from the mouth of Dayton Campbell. And what was it that Dayton said? Let's remind ourselves.
This is what Dr. Campbell said in response.
I can tell you why that happened. That's because they put more money in the two divisions that we're going to have by-elections in. So we're going to have a by-election in Chancery, I'm going to have a by-election in Denham Town. So they put some more money in the two divisions that are going to have the by-election.
Now, whenever words are spoken, those words are intended to communicate a meaning. There is something that is going on in Dayton Campbell's head that he needed to have communicated to Lawrence Rowe. Lawrence wanted to know why it is that he only got $300,000 for his constituency while others got $500,000 and more last Christmas. And this was the explanation given to him by Dayton Campbell. But what exactly was it that Dayton wanted to communicate to Lawrence Rowe in order to convince him that he was not being unfairly treated, but there were reasons for what the parish council did? Now, the conversation came about when information got to Lawrence Rowe that other caretakers, both at the constituency level and the divisional level, received over $500,000 from the KSAMC last Christmas, while he only received $300,000, and was asked by Mayor Swaby to recommend two names for the Christmas work in downtown Kingston. In the course of the conversation with Dayton Campbell, he told him that the people in the leadership of Northwest St. Andrew had received over $500,000. That was his understanding. And it was this that Dayton Campbell was replying to when he uttered these very telling words. He said, I can tell you why that happened. In other words, I don't have to go to Mayor Swaby and ask him what happened. I can tell you why that happened. He's saying here that he has knowledge. He's admitting to having knowledge as to why Northwest St. Andrew received over $500,000, while he, Lawrence Rowe, only received $300,000. He, Dayton Campbell, was seeking to give Lawrence the impression that all other caretakers would have done the same as him, received $300,000, and that the reason why Northwest St. Andrew, where Chancery Hall is located, received over $500,000 was because the by-election is going to run in that seat. He also volunteered, it seems to me. That is the same thing is true of Denham Town. If you were to investigate, that Denham Town also received over $500,000. And this distinct impression that was given and understood to have been given by everyone who heard the conversation is that Dayton was saying that this money was to be used in order to assist them in their election efforts prior to the calling of the by-elections. And since Dayton Campbell is also the campaign manager for the elections coming up, he is also admitting, it would seem to me, that all of this was being done with his knowledge, consent, and approval, and by extension, the campaign team, and by further extension, by the knowledge, consent, and approval of the leadership of the People's National Party, Peter Bunting and Mark Golding. The mere fact that Dayton Campbell continues to hold his position as General Secretary after this debacle, and the mere fact that they continue to have him as the campaign manager, and the mere fact that they have him at every conference on the political platform making pronouncements, is what will tell us that he did not do anything that was not with the consent and approval of his superiors, Bunting and Golding. Mark Golding is his boss, after all. And he had said at the installation of Damian Crawford, not only that he's pleased with Dayton Campbell, but he has his full confidence. What more do you want? Now, except for what was revealed by what Dayton said in terms of the parish council being used as the cash cow to fund the PNP's election campaigns. Now, we must remind ourselves that the Denham Town as well as the Chancery Hall divisions are vacant. No sitting councillors, right? And therefore, it is the mayor who would be responsible for taking care of those two divisions. So what it is that Dayton Campbell was telling Lawrence Rowe, that the mayor funneled extra money to the PNP caretakers of both divisions for them to dispense that money in whatever way they see fit. And the impression was given by Dayton Campbell was that the whole idea behind the additional funding, additional $200,000 that they received, was for a specific purpose. According to Dayton Campbell, that's because they, the parish council, put more money in the two divisions we are going to have by elections in. What more do we need as evidence that Dayton Campbell is expressing, is confessing, admitting in his own words that he had knowledge of this decision, and as campaign manager, he must have given approval for his candidate caretakers to receive this money for the purpose for which he said they were intended, which would then give the People's National Party's candidates an advantage over the Labour Party candidates, because it appears from what Dayton Campbell is saying that the mayor, in taking care of these two divisions, is running the money through the PNP caretakers. Remember now, these are two Labour Party divisions that were won by the Labour Party, right? One of the councillors was elevated to become the Member of Parliament, the other one died. And now the PNP candidate caretakers would be the ones spending the monies in the divisions, if we are to believe what Dayton Campbell said. We have not to date seen or heard any evidence that any money was given to the JLP caretaker candidates. So if the impression that Dayton is giving to all of us, which some of us may not have noticed, right, is that in these two Jamaica Labour Party stronghold, the mayor's discretionary fund, it's his responsibility to take care of these divisions, and he's funneling the money through the PNP caretaker candidates to spend in the two divisions, then this would indeed be of benefit to the PNP's election campaign. And that money that they're spending is not coming out of the party's coffers. Now, had it been a JLP mayor in that position, would he have done any differently? Perhaps not. But then, guess what? They were never caught. So we can't speculate as to what they do or wouldn't do. We can only speak of what we were told by the campaign manager of the People's National Party, that funds were being spent in a manner to give his party an advantage in 2 strong Jamaica Labour Party seats. Well, we wish them luck with that one. What you say? Yes. Well, folks, that's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for joining me. And do remember, for those of you who are joining me for the first time, if you find the content informative, please go ahead and give the video a thumbs up. And remember to subscribe. And of course, your support for the channel is appreciated, as is the support of my subscribers. You are deeply appreciated. So I need you to watch the channel, because there is more coming up. There are more information out there about the spending of the KCMC and where some monies went. But we are waiting for further evidence to present themselves, and we anticipate they will. And when they do, look out. We will be bringing them to your attention. So keep watching the channel. Great. So until next time, take very good care of yourselves and walk good.